On this episode of the John 1911 podcast, the California magazine ban is overturned. Is the Hudson H9 on a comeback? Now they want your sniper rifles, and even commies don't like Android phones. Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Marky and Freeze, and this is episode 128 of the John 1911 podcast. How's it going, Freeze?
Freezing my ass off right now.
Are you in your garage?
Yeah, I'm in the garage. Yesterday 65 degrees. Today, 28. It's like, what the hell?
It's like I'm actually in my truck right now, and it's showing 30 degrees. So, well,
it's like, crazy.
I almost wish the amount of rain we had yesterday that it had been freezing and it had been snow, because it would have helped out on the range with the seeding. But
yeah,
I think we can officially say that, 2018 was the third wettest year on record for our part of the country. And I think we can officially say that it is carrying over into 2019.
Oh,
this
man.
Is crazy.
His 2018 ended?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, man, we're almost on we have to be closing in on a solid year of this kind of rain. So
yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be on the range this morning, but the thing is, it's so muddy, and I'm like, I don't even want to go out there and tear it all up. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll just let it dry out and maybe try to throw some seed down later or look and see what's planted. So, it just sucks. So, hey, I want to talk about something fun though. Donald Trump is going into the T-shirt business. Have you seen this?
Yes.
Have you seen this? So
no.
Yesterday, I think it was yesterday. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't know what that was, but that was fucking awful. Don't do that again.
Okay.
Yesterday, I get this email from the Trump campaign, personally, obviously. And 15 million people didn't get this. They sent it to me. And it's a fundraiser. They're always like, hey, hey, fundraiser, support us. The Mueller probe is over and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's for like $20 or whatever it is. You can get a Pencil Neck Schiff T-shirt. It's got a picture of him on it with a skinny ass neck, and he's got like a big old red clown nose on his face. And it's just like they are spiking the ball so hard in the White House this week over the Mueller probe. Well, I'm not going to say they're out of control, but they are having a good goddamn time up there.
Well, everyone knew this was bullshit for the last 2.5 years, but, it had to run its course. And now that it has run its course and they can't take it any further, it's time to do the happy dance,
Oh, man.
And the liberals are going crazy, but everyone knew this was coming. Everyone. And I don't care what you say, even the whiny bitches on the left knew this was coming.
The thing is, the media, the left media, I'm trying to be objective here. The left media, they kept, their argument always was, even when this was so obvious, like, they would even get Schiff, be like, do you have any evidence? And, have you seen evidence of collusion or they would ask him something, like ask him specifics, like, who did this or who did that? And he would always hem and haw, but he would say, have he seen evidence? But with the argument that the media would always make would be, well, yeah, you don't know. We can't talk about the proof right now, but you don't know what Mueller knows. Mueller knows everything, and Mueller's gonna show all. Mueller knows everything. So you just
it turned out to be true. Mueller did know everything. It just so happens that what he knew isn't what they wanted to think he knew.
Yeah,
he knew there was no.
It was,
and he milked it for good.
And the thing is, the next big fight, and this is obvious, anyone that knows anything about, I testified in grand jury before a grand jury, okay? And there's rules, there's standard procedural rules that I think maybe the average person doesn't really appreciate. Grand jury testimony is secret. And the reason it's secret for two reasons primarily. The first reason is, let's say they've impaneled a grand jury and they're looking to go after Marky. And they call all these people in because they want to invest Marky for, I don't know, some bullshit, let's say some legitimate charge. And all these people come in and all they do is shit talk me and all this shit. They're like, like everything from like personal stuff to like, I have a little dick to, anything and everything you could possibly throw at the wall. But at the end of that, they determine no true bill. They're like, nope, turns out Marky did not steal the gold bullion from Fort Knox. And they're like, okay, but all that shit that was discussed about how I'm such a dirtbag or, personal issues or whatever doesn't get released because you could impanel grand juries to just destroy people. And if you leak the grand jury information, because grand juries can be one-sided because they're all about trying to get an indictment, they could pollute the jury pool for an actual objective trial, to be judged by your peers. And so what's going to happen is, and everybody that knows anything about this kind of stuff knows this is going to happen. They're going to have all kinds of shit redacted in this fucking report. Or they're going to have shit in this report that's just not there. The grand jury testimony is not going to be there. And the media is going to be like, where's the grand jury testimony? Where's this? The media wants to take this to either use it as oppo research to dump on Trump or to use it as a bludgeon to try to keep the narrative alive. Well, we didn't get everything, even if we get everything, because we didn't get the grand jury testimony. What about his taxes?
Well, and you realize either way that they go just pushes Donald Trump closer to a 2020 win.
See, maybe. George Herbert Walker Bush was the most popular president by polling numbers in history at the end of the first Gulf War. And he got blown out by Clinton. Mm-hmm. And 2 years is a long time. And, this is not a cakewalk. The argument that people make that Trump's going to have a hard election is there's people, they're smarter than me because they really get into this stuff. They basically say the argument is that about 80,000 people in swing states, in swing counties that flipped states, basically got Donald Trump elected. And if those people don't vote for, and all those people are in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And it's like, Ohio's probably going to go Republican. I have no faith in Pennsylvania. And it's like, Michigan? Maybe. But there's a reason why Trump has he done 2 campaign rallies in Michigan in the past 7 days? There's a reason. Because he got up there and, the Democratic bullshit, he said something. He was like, cursing up there and having a good old time. It's because they know it's that close. And, if they don't get, Wisconsin, oh my God, Wisconsin, the People's Republic of Wisconsin, no offense. But, it's like, Wisconsin is like, come on. And then it's like Michigan, maybe, because Trump can maybe get the actual union vote. Pennsylvania, I don't put my life in the hands of Pennsylvania. So that means now you're back to fighting in Florida.
Well, you know what though? This is the same argument we had in the last election, and we saw how it turned out. So look, we got a year and a half before a little bit more than a year and a half before the next election. We'll see what happens over the course of the next 6-8 months. But look, the more the left goes closer and closer to socialism, the more these socialist wingnuts run off the rails. Look, I think AOC is the best thing that could happen to Donald Trump.
Oh, dude. What did she come out with today? She's to the point now that even her much vaunted tweets and her social media skills are just collapsing. It's like, her Green New Deal, first of all, it's like, well, it's a policy. It's a goddamn bill. It's not a conceptual idea. You actually making policy, and you have to be real specific. And then they're like, well, it's not really policy. I know it's aspirational, and 90, and so they're backing off at being policy. And it's like, well, no, it's aspirational and whatever. It's like, wait a minute. The reason you didn't call it the Green New America. You didn't call it the Green Meanie. You called it the Green New Deal. The New Deal was a huge policy by FDR to remake all this shit. It wasn't aspirational. It was step 1, step 2, step 3. They went down to Tennessee and they did this, and they did the WPA, and they did all this and all that. And it was not like just vague bullshit. So now, she came out, was it yesterday or something? And they're like, you crazy loon, your Green New Deal is $93 trillion. I think we have like a $14 trillion economy every year. Like the entire economy, I think, is $14 trillion. And so now her response is, well, you all sound like Dr. Evil. And it's like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Wow, I just choked on that.
Yeah, she is so done. She is so roasted.
Yeah, she is. But you know what? She's the gift that keeps on giving, because no matter how roasted you or everyone else thinks she is, she thinks she's still viable, and she's still going to open her mouth, and the media is still going to gobble it up. And it's the gift that keeps on giving. It's kind of like herpes. It goes away and then it comes back.
AOC. Well, you know what? When was the last time we had a member of Congress elected to the body that didn't actually understand what that meant? And it's, you can tell she really never took a civics class. And here's the best part. She is a college graduate, which is becoming less and less important. She's an economics major. Remember when she made the comment? Remember when she made the comment? She made the comment. Well, the reason the unemployment rate is so low is because everybody's working 2 jobs, and it's like,
yeah,
it was one thing if she was like a computer science major or a fine art major, but bitch, you graduated economics. The fuck is going on up there in Boston College?
See, that makes you just wonder about what colleges are teaching their students and what these graduates are learning while they're in college these days. It really does.
Dude, I'm not even going to bullshit you. This whole college admission scandal thing. Oh my God.
I love it.
I hate this. I hate to be dancing on the grave of somebody, because on some level it's you could questionable morals, but these sons of bitches, and they sit up there and they're making all these degrees that have really no vetting. They have no real peer review, and all they're doing is sucking up all this money, making all these administrative jobs. Like, I remember there's a person at the University UC, somewhere of these UC California colleges. They're the diversity something at some college, and it's whatever college it was out there. Was it 600,000 a year, or maybe it was $1 million? But it's like, wait a minute, how many adjunct professors could you hire? for $600,000 or $1,000,000 a year. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, these colleges are a huge scam. Dude, you need to get a goddamn drink or something. Are you all right?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. Yeah, you know, I don't know if you remember us talking about this, but this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And we were talking about how all the colleges are requiring all these careers to have doctorates. You know, pharmacists now have to have a doctorate. Physical therapists now have to have doctorates. And I mean, you know, and it goes on and on. And the thing
pharmacists have almost always had to have doctorates.
No, just a master's. They were registered pharmacists for years. And then about less than 10 years ago, they required them to have a PharmD, which is a doctorate of pharmacy. Yeah. And here's the thing. The only difference is it gives them an extra couple of years of school, which they don't learn anything more than they learned before, realistically, and it sucks up a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
And I mean, college is...
Yeah, it's obvious.
And I mean, they've been doing this for like the last 8 or 10 years, just making these different degrees. They require them to have a higher standard, you know, which, you know, I mean, obviously
so you can't get a master. Are you saying you can't become a master's pharmacist anymore?
No.
You have to get a PharmD?
A registered pharmacist is basically the equivalent of having a master's degree. A PharmD is is a doctorate degree, and anyone in pharmacy school right now is going for their PharmD. That's the only option you have.
That's what I'm asking. So they're changing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's...
Yeah, but again, it's that way in physical therapy, and I mean, there's several other fields that's like this, and it's basically all it is a money grab.
Dude, I look back on my college years, undergrad and graduate school, and to be honest, where I'm at now in life and what I'm doing, I would have been so much better off if I had just gone to like vocational school and learned like CNC or machining or like become, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't have imagined it at the time, but that would be so much more handy for me today. If I was a machinist, if I could actually run shit, like if I could actually turn on a lathe and I have it rip my arm off, that would be so much more useful than, you know, fractal mathematics from goddamn 1992. You know, I mean, it's a huge waste for me personally, but that's a more result of the choices I made. But still, it's like, I didn't use any of that shit.
Yeah, well, and if you would have went into machining, you would have known the difference between, a screwdriver and a hammer.
I know a screwdriver will fit in my eye socket, and a hammer will make the eye socket bigger. So,
That's all you need to know.
That's on the job training right there. Let me tell you. You know what? Funny story. I don't think I've ever really told this publicly, but not that it matters related to this, but as an aside, my grandfather on my mother's side did farmers, and my grandfather later in life. I mean, I remember as a young child, he didn't have this. And I remember at some point, I noticed it when I was probably a young teenager. He was hammering a nail, doing something. I believe the story was he was hammering a nail and something went flying and went into his eye and basically damaged one of his eyes. And I never forgot that. It's like I wear eye pro and stuff. And, I mean, this shit's dangerous. All that stuff could blow up on you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that really happened. I saw my grandfather. I mean, he's a farmer. Like, literally, it's like, yeah, whatever. They roll fucking tractors and do all kinds of shit. They crippled and whatever. They just get up every day and keep working. So,
hey man, farm's a dangerous job.
Oh. You know what? Let me tell this story. So, this is obviously way, way pre-Obamacare. So, I had to get my own insurance as a young man. And I, shopping around and trying to, get what there was to get. And I had found a group of farmer insurance. And it
Yeah.
was very low for me to join this group. And because technically it was, I was an office worker, but, that wasn't really true. But, we were getting away with it.
Yeah.
Again, just life choices. So what it was is their profession, that industry is so dangerous. And look, you get hurt working at IBM, you may fall down the stairs and break your leg or something. You get hurt working on a farm, you might lose your fucking leg, and so the injuries and the payouts for injuries for the groups of farmers were so expensive. They were so desperate to get non-farmers into that group. My insurance was nothing. And, that was the market. And that's an example of market working.
They needed members that weren't going to die.
Yeah. They needed members that weren't going to, freaking lose, both their hands in a combine accident, and it's, and I learned that as a very young man about the economics of insurance markets. And I was like, ooh, this is cool. I like this. I was a young man anyway. It wasn't expensive. Then the fact that they were like, wait a minute, you're not a farmer? Swing. It was great. I had great insurance. So, hey, speaking of hippies and communists and AOC and all these crazy people in the election, dude, I am convinced that the communists are trying to knock Joe Biden out of the running. All these accusations coming out that he gropes and sniffs all these women, which we've all seen for years. Have you seen the reports?
I haven't seen the latest, no, but I about choked on my coffee when you mentioned groping and sniffing women.
Oh my God, dude, he would do it in the goddamn East Wing of the White House.
I know. I mean, we talked about this during. I mean, oh God. I mean, we've talked about this for years. I mean, it's been kind of like a joke every time you see a picture of them.
Mm-hmm. See, a lot of our listeners, and I say this, and a lot of our listeners, because of the demographic, they hate Joe Biden because it's a left-right thing. And I've always warned them.
Joe Biden's a very liked man.
And here's the thing: they really don't understand. Joe Biden is one of the most popular people in all of Washington, D.C. He always has been. Huh?
He was kind of like Johnson was in the 60s. He was a very popular person. Might not be as powerful as Johnson was.
I bet he's more popular. I mean, on a personal level, everybody likes Joe Biden. And I'm convinced that, all the talk, they're like, well, who's got the most support on the Democratic side? And they're like, between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, that's about 50% of the goddamn left vote. And Biden's not even in the race yet. And I'm convinced the left is doing everything they can to drive this narrative to keep him from getting in the race. Same way, like a lot of us hated Jeb Bush. Joe Biden is the less Jeb Bush. They're all like, fucking really? Fucking Joe? All these communists want this old white guy who will make deals with the right on some level. They want him gone. And I'm convinced that they're going to start coming out in mass to try to run these stories on Joe. Because he's a handsy dude.
Yeah.
He's a handsy dude. Oh,
yeah,
man.
Yeah, no doubt. But, on one hand, though, it doesn't surprise me because, all these freaking communists, I mean, look, they don't want anyone who's middle of the road. They don't want anyone who's going to get things done. Basically, they're like the kid, it's my bat, it's my ball, it's my glove, and if you don't play by my rules, I'm going home. They want it their way or no way. They don't want compromise. And Joe Biden is a guy who, he's on the left, of course, but he will compromise to get what he needs to get done. He's that kind of a politician.
Well, here's the thing. It's literally the same thing on the Republican side as on the Democratic side. And here's the truth. The Republicans do not want to close the border. The Republicans do not want to solve the immigration crisis. Republicans do not really want to solve the issue with trade in China. The left, I mean, mainstream Republicans, when I'm talking Republicans, I mean like the people that run the party. On the left, mainstream Democrats do not really, they're not really communists. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is a batshit crazy lunatic, but she's not an actual card-carrying communist. But what's happened is they have been telling these commies for so many years, leading them down the trail, leading them down the path of like, well, we're going to do this and do that. And, okay, maybe single payer and, people can paint. But it's like the left is so pissed. All these people that think socialism is great, until you take shit from them, they look at Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden as like, get the fuck out of my party because we're going for the dream. And just like the way the Trump side is like, Jeb Bush, you son of a bitch, get the fuck out of my party. We're tired of you fuckers. And I think the left is trying to take Joe out. And nobody's reporting it that way. And I think Joe not getting in is Joe Biden is really popular right now. Mm-hmm. And he was popular before, but he's really, everybody likes goddamn Joe Biden. But the peak of his popularity will be the day before he declares. Once he declares he's actually in, dude, all the Oppo research is going to start coming out, and half of it's going to come from the Democrats. And they are going to destroy that motherfucker. Oh, my God, they're going to destroy him.
Well,
I don't think he's got the heart.
Okay, it's early. Who do you think that the Democrats are going to try to run against Donald Trump? I mean, it's an early prediction. I understand that.
Your question is very specific, and words matter, so I'm going to answer it the way you asked it. The Democrats are going to try to run Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, because they know Bernie and a lot of these crazy communist, anti-Semite lunatics are going to crash this party. They're trying to run Joe Biden. That's who the Democrats want to run.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but if your prediction comes through,
if Joe doesn't make it, she's having a hard time right now. But their really most viable candidate, in my opinion, right now is Kamala Harris. Let me tell you how desperate they are in Joe Biden. Look, it's not. Is it April yet? Is today April 1st? What is today?
No, it's the 31st.
It's the 31st. March 31st. Joe Biden's camp is floating the idea. Well, he's going to choose a woman as his vice presidential nominee on the ticket. And it's like they haven't even had one debate yet. They haven't had one primary yet. And then they're like floating Stacey Abrams. And it's like the woman that hasn't won anything and she still thinks she's the governor of Georgia. And, it's like that is so stupid because here's the thing. He comes out and he's like, well, and this is how desperate they are because they're trying to keep the crazies under control. And so like, okay, we'll make a deal. We'll declare this black woman who's a true leftist. We'll put her as the number 2 on the ticket, and we'll announce it now. That way, it'll be fine, and we'll move forward as a party. But it's like she hasn't won anything. There's no real oppo research on her on a national level. You don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now, and it's like she could go. Her candidacy could explode, and then he's already declared her as the bottom of the ticket. And and then it's like turns out, oh, she's a member of the Black Clan. I mean, I'm just making some crazy moon asteroid thing up just to prove a point. And it's like now he's boxed into a corner and he's got to try to dump this woman when they should have even named her. And on top of all of that, if they name her somebody now, how the hell are they supposed to unify the party at the convention? Because normally it's number one, number two, and they're trying to get rid of the super delegates, and it's like let's come together. You didn't get it, but you can be on the ticket. And normally number two that could bring a biggest coalition politically, it makes the ticket. And if he walks in to the convention with somebody as a number two, he has no leverage. It is the dumbest thing that's been floated in politics in probably 15 years. And nobody's talking about that. The Democratic Party is in huge trouble.
Well, they're desperate at this point.
They're desperate because AOC and Bernie Sanders have taken over the party. And they don't want to admit it. That's the problem. The Democrats don't have anybody. And if they can't somehow finagle Kamala in there, but she keeps getting bounced around on Jussie Smollett, she got hammered on. And then I can't remember what the hell else she got hammered on. Then before that it was she got hammered on the you remember the super predators and the Clinton crime initiative and putting all these people in prison and truant parents and all that shit. So the left doesn't want to hear that from her. And so they're letting her, that's why she's in a quiet period right now, hoping to repop and refloat at some point. She's the only one right now that's moderately today not knowing if another guy, there's a couple other people that, that could announce or that are in it that nobody knows anything about that could change. But they're in huge trouble. I mean, and that's the current political situation of it. I mean, Jussie Smollett, it's like, and like Kamala Harris's people, they can't get away from this fucking story because now this guy in Chicago, they're like, charges dropped, no plea deal, no Alfred plea, no official nothing, just went away.
Yeah, record clean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
community service, Jesse Jackson. Really?
Look. This Jussie Smollett thing is the epitome of Chicago politics, dating back over 100 years. It really is. It's just
Wait
like,
a minute, are you saying Chicago's corrupt?
No. I'm insinuating Chicago's corrupt. It's
amazing.
When I heard they dropped the charges on him, it was just like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like that's unbelievable.
Well, look, I'm not surprised they dropped the charges. Look, most cases don't go to court. But here's the thing. It's like, we're going to make you a deal. I don't want to take this to court. You don't want to take this to court because this is going to get ugly. So why don't you, I don't know how many felonies they charged him with, but a normal person, if he's got, let's say he's got 5 felonies. You're getting one. You're catching a felony.
That's what I'm thinking. I didn't think he was going to get hammered and go to prison and all this shit, but I didn't expect charges to be dropped and basically his record cleared. I mean,
it wasn't even, and I think he actually, I've heard this, he may actually have a prior record, beyond speeding ticket or something. I think he's got some other stuff. He's not an actual first time offender of stuff. I could be wrong on that, but they've been intimating.
No,
it's like, wait a minute.
Exactly what it is, because I haven't paid that close attention to it, but no, he did have some prior shit on his record.
Oh, my favorite part is when he comes out and he's like, starts invoking his mom. I wouldn't be my mother's son. I've told you the truth the whole time. It's like, Jesus, dude. Jesus.
the last I heard, his attorneys are wanting an apology from like Chicago, the mayor of Chicago, and all this other crazy shit. And it's like, dude, man, you just cannot leave well enough alone. I mean, God has descended from fucking heaven and anointed you with his foreskin, and you can't walk away. I mean, seriously, it's like, dude, just shut the fuck up and take your win.
You know, but look, I think the guy's a sociopath. I think he actually might be. And on paper, he has a point. If he hasn't been, if the case just evaporated, it wasn't settled. It wasn't pled out. It wasn't deferred. It wasn't alternative sentencing. It wasn't admission. It's just like it never happened. If you want to pretend that that's the reality, in theory, their lawyer can make the same argument against the police department that I could make if the police department came out, sort of shit talking me in public. Yeah, fuck that John 1911 sons of bitches. Fuck them. It's like, fuck you. You know, who the fuck are you talking about me, bitch? I mean, that's on paper, they're right. But that's where their perception of the universe that they're really in, it's like, dude needs to think about what he should have done. What he should have done, he should have walked out of that goddamn courtroom and been like, I'm going into therapy. I'm going to go to whatever the thing is in Malibu for something. You know, I have a personality disorder, I have a drug disorder, or I have a something, and you know, I have a sex addiction, whatever he wants to claim. And then, you throw himself guilty, and then it's, then you could the return of the prodigal son. He could, everybody likes a redemption story in America. And it's like, come on, dude. The guy, that's what I'm thinking there. The guy's insane. Like, the guy's a sociopath because his judgment isn't on.
I mean, but you look at what Roseanne Barr did, and she got kicked off her own freaking show. And then you look what this guy does, and he gets all charges dropped, and he's asking for an apology, and he doesn't get shit. He's still, he's still on his show. It's just like, oh, man,
Well, I love the argument that, he's not a threat to society, and he's not a danger, and not this and not that. It's like, here's the thing. I'm sure there's probably 50,000 people in greater Ferguson, Missouri, looking at that going, this motherfucker could have started a race riot and gotten people hurt or killed. That's not dangerous. This could have been awful. If this wasn't so egregiously stupid, it could have turned into a giant, like Antifa could have shown up and started smashing up the neighborhood.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because if, let's do some role reversal and let's see what Chicago politics would have done if he was white and he paid two dudes with Antifa hats to beat him up, and same scenario, found out it was all a lie, he paid him to do it. Same scenario, except he's white, and the two dudes that supposedly beat him up were wearing Antifa hats. You think the charges would have been dropped and this thing would have all just went away?
So, I don't know if you heard this. So, some people are trying to use logic to derail this kid. And he's a kid, relative to me. And they're like, well, wait a minute. How come you said? Because it's like his argument is that he was actually attacked by these two people. And he had nothing to do with it. And the fact that he wrote them a check was just for something else. And he didn't know they attacked him. And they're like, well, wait a minute. These two big, giant black bodybuilders. And like, I think one guy's a professional fighter, maybe. How come he described them as white? They're like, how the fuck you explain that? Jussie Smollett's lawyer went out on the internet, and this is proof to everybody out there that you put shit out there on the internet, and you'd be surprised how it come back. One of these guys, one year for Halloween, dressed up as the Joker from the Batman movies. So he took some kind of white makeup, put white makeup on his face, and a big old like Joker with the scar, the guy like the really cool Batman movies, like that, like scary looking Joker. And so Smollett's lawyer is saying that his client was attacked by these two guys that are known to wear whiteface. And it's
Get the fuck out of here.
Dude, it's like we are in, that's when Donald Trump walks up to a dais in Michigan and says the Democrats got to stop their fucking bullshit. This is crazy town. We got a first class ticket on the crazy train here.
Wow.
It's
the first thing that comes to mind is if the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
Dude. Tell me you don't miss Johnny Cochran. I love that dude.
I know that smoking a turd in hell with Hitler right now, but God, he was, he was so entertaining.
Yeah, Johnny Cochran was, I guess the best thing about Johnny Cochran is when you can see his face and he's making these arguments. Part of you like, yeah, Johnny, let's go get a drink. And you're full of shit. And I know you're full of shit. And you're just doing your job. Because that's what being a defense lawyer is. And we all understand. Yeah. You're fine. Uh-huh. And it's just like, I think the kids like the AOCs and Smollett, they don't get the joke of the real killers. I'm going to go find the real killers. And that's the thing. I'm going to go find the real killers. And the country was laughing. It's like, oh, my God, really? Hey, let's talk about some gun stuff. What the hell is going on in California with 30-round magazines? Did you see the meme I posted?
No.
Apparently, a federal judge has ruled in maybe the Ninth Circuit, obviously, because isn't all California in the Ninth?
Yeah, Ninth Circuit.
So again, it's not the appellate level or the senior levels. It's probably the first, the first tranche of the federal court, Ninth Circuit. I believe a federal judge has ruled that 30-round magazines are in common use, and these are not military weapons. They're not exceptionally dangerous items. They're the most common. AR-15 is the most common rifle used in America, and this is the most common magazine that's always been available for it, and you can't ban this shit. And so now all these companies that sell 30-round magazines, they're all out because all these people in California are ordering magazines. Until possibly it gets appealed. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, look, I have stopped trying to figure out what the hell goes through the mind of the Ninth Circuit years ago. Because, now it's real easy to jump on that and go, yeah, but because, Second Amendment and it's everyone's right, blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, they got bullet buttons, So, yeah. Whatever. I don't know who
this judge is. I don't know if he's a Bush appointee, a Trump appointee, or if he's an Obama or Clinton appointee, and he just happens to be interpreting maybe some stuff from Heller or something. Like, I don't know where this is coming from. I haven't seen the ruling, so I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how this is going to hold up. It could hold.
It could, but then again, if we hear tomorrow that it gets shot down, does it shock me in any way, shape, or form? No. It's California.
But here's the thing: if the first level judge has ruled in favor of the magazines, and then the appellate, so all the testimony, all the analysis, all the facts are now set. Now it just becomes a block that moves, and people can make an argument, but the facts of the case are already set in the first level. So, and if they cited if they were citing maybe some of these later rulings like Heller or whatnot, and let's say even let's say it gets overturned by an appellate court, and then you do a 3-judge. Is it 1-level appellate, then 3-judge appellate, or is it 3-judge? But basically, you end up from 1 to 3 to en banc, which is all the judges, unless you want to bypass all the judges in the Ninth Circuit and go straight to Supreme Court. Here's the thing. If the first judge has actually got sound legal grounding and he's using Supreme Court precedent, these other judges, these appellate judges, could overturn it. The Supreme Court can now easily either, quote, if it gets to the Supreme Court, they choose to, quote, take it. They send it back, basically saying, you need to redo this. Here's the Supreme Court can now say this ruling stands, but they don't have to have a trial at the Supreme Court. And that's what most of our readers and listeners don't understand about the court system. This is a big deal because if it's sound legal reasoning and it jives up near the Supreme Court could just say, send it back, or, overturn it, send it back with a note, you need to redo this one, appellate court. Or, they don't have to open up the case to set new precedents. They don't have to be the Supreme Court that they have to relitigate, the boundaries of the Second Amendment. It's already packaged, and so they can now bounce it back and say, yeah, well, one looks pretty good to me. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. So we'll see
but it's California, so who knows?
Ultimately, it's California. Who knows?
California has a long history of basically saying "fuck the Constitution."
That makes if you look at the news as history, you wonder, at what point in the future does, you're like, yeah, California is going to just be its own country.
Yeah, well.
But they won all the money from the rest of us.
Well, of course.
And the thing is, here's the thing, California, they're like, we're such a wealthy state. It's like, well, yeah, because you have all those ports of entry that basically feed the country. But if you're no longer in the United States, the ports of entry will now change to north of you or to other parts of the country, and you won't have our tax base. So you may starve. But then the other bad news is California, then the country of California then goes, hey, China, would you like to put a base into San Diego Harbor or say San Francisco Bay for like $10 billion a year? China's sure.
Sure they do. And that is why California will never be able to secede and become their own country.
Yeah, because they're crazy and they would do something to hurt the rest of the country.
Yes. And we're not going to allow that, Monroe Doctrine and all that good happy horse shit. But look, you weren't expecting me to throw the Monroe Doctrine in on that, were you?
Hey, you know what, history major? You actually have a real fucking degree.
but right now, there's a bunch of people Googling Monroe Doctrine. But anyway,
including AOC. Here's the thing: you're a history major, and you probably would not get your arm ripped off by a lathe either. So that goes to tell you how my education worked out for me.
But look, what you're more likely to see is California breaking up into 2 or 3 states. And I'm not saying that's going to happen anytime soon, but you're more likely to see that than California ripping off into its own country.
You know what? You're right, because that's actually what's happening in Europe. See, it doesn't get reported here in the U.S., but European Union, like the UK and Brexit. Everyone hears about Brexit and Theresa May and, God damn it. There's going to be, what are we going to do about Northern Ireland and Southern and Ireland and, the fucking border and, the IRA and all this shit. Yeah. The problem is they've removed local representation so far away to these elites and overseas or far away, that people don't feel like they have a country anymore, or they don't have a say in their own affairs. So, you've got parts of Spain that want to break away. There's parts of Germany that want to break away from Germany. There's parts of Belgium that want to break away from Belgium. The Basque separatists, the Catalans, all kinds of this shit. And it's like, because people are getting tired of these liberal douchebags, lording over everybody with no consequences. And so they want to break away. And that's what could happen in California. Especially when California runs out of money.
Look, it could happen. This isn't something that's easily done. I mean, you don't just, we're forming, we're breaking away and forming our own state. It doesn't work that simply, but could it happen? Yeah, I could see it happening in the future.
Look, when California's retirement system collapses, that'll be the real big test. Because then you're going to have all these people that are civically minded and civically connected to the state living upstate that don't have their pensions.
Well, I'll tell you
because of LA.
Well, I'll tell you what'll happen is when Kamala Harris and Beto O'Rourke win the 2020 ticket, Northern California is going to be in a shitstorm of trouble.
When Kamala Harris and Beto O'Rourke win the 2020, when they become president and vice president?
Yeah, exactly. Could you imagine the state of affairs in places like upstate New York if you had a Harris O'Rourke presidency?
Well, I talked about this on pod a few years ago, and I was surprised it didn't happen. And you and I predicted it. We predicted that Barack Obama, before he left office, he would bail out California, and he did not. And the truth is, the next Democratic president, whether it's in 2020 or 2024 or 2028, someone's going to, if there isn't a Democrat in office to bail out California, California's going to be for a lot of pain.
Oh yeah,
a lot of pain. And so that's what will end up happening is, if they get a bailout, it'll keep them alive and it won't break apart. So, hey,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean,
speaking of leaving failed states, did you hear what Smith & Wesson's doing?
I did.
Smith & Wesson, for the listener, is moving their distribution center, which I think is a toe in the water. They're moving their distribution center out of, where is Smith? They in Massachusetts, or are they in Connecticut?
They're in Connecticut.
Anyway, nobody cares where they're moving from because, whatever. It's a fucking communist state. They're moving to Missouri.
Yeah, which I thought was an interesting choice, by the way.
Centrally located.
But now this is their distribution center. So this isn't their manufacturing facility yet.
Uh-huh.
That's the thing.
It establishes a presence. It establishes a corporate presence. It establishes a tax precedent, and you get infrastructure. You get connections. You get staff down there, and all these companies that do this, they always start with something small like this. We're gonna, we're just gonna make our shotguns down in this state now, but we're gonna still keep everything else up here. And then it's like 3 or 4 years later, bam, they out. Smith is leaving. Smith is leaving wherever they're at. I mean, they'll be out within a decade. They're gone.
I mean, look. It's a smart move on their part. And they're following suit. They're not the first ones to do this.
It's a smart move in the same way walking out of a burning building is a smart move. You're not a genius. You're just trying not to die.
Exactly. And, Smith's, there was just something where they just got hammered on a lawsuit over over one of these shootings, where
Was that Smith or was that
I'm
Remington?
pretty now I think it was Smith, because the dude used an M&P 15 or something like that. Maybe that was.
Hey, Mr. Pendantic, don't call that an AR-15 since it wasn't made by Colt.
Yeah, whatever.
I know. Hey, I've got some Hudson H9 news.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So, you and I were discussing, it's like, what's going on with the Hudson? They're gone. Like, you're Chapter 7. It's like, they're cutting up the body. Well, turns out there's a company, I think they're in Arizona. I think. They're called KE Arms. And it turns out they are one of the subcontractors for components for Hudson. And they are owed a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
Apparently they were making the H9 slide. So if they were making the slide, they might be involved in the extractor, which I think is a important part to this gun. So
well, it's an important part to a lot of the issues with this gun. There's no doubt about that.
Exactly. So I suspect they so anyway, they come out and they said they're floating this. They want to see how much interest there is. They are trying to reach out and find other vendors that were making other parts for Hudson. Since they've got these parts, they can't do anything with them. Yeah. They're trying to scour all these parts up, and KE is this. They're going to see how much interest there is, and if the aftermarket community for the Hudson guns, like if you have a Hudson gun and it doesn't work, or you want to do upgrades to it, they are expressing theoretical interest in scooping up all these parts and supporting this as a business, up to and including the possibility of manufacturing an aluminum frame and letting people do exchanges for aluminum for the frame, which must mean they have access to the machine prints, or they anticipate access in courts, because that'll probably be one of the few assets worth any money.
Yeah.
If they're the number one debtor, they get paid first. And I wonder if they're going to get access to the actual tool room prints. They may even have, because they're obviously tooling the slides. It's interesting. They want to buy Hudson.
Well, I mean, if you can get it on a song, why not? Especially if they're already tooled up to make, one of the major components of the firearm.
Yeah, you're not going to get it for a song. Everybody thinks these guns are fucking gold plated. That's the problem. That's always been the problem with this gun. The nerds are too hot on it and they think it's special. And it's like,
well, we'll see. Well, we'll see how it breaks down in the courts, though.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. It's pretty cut and dry. Hudson's gone. They have too much debt. Like, I don't know how much they owe, but I've heard numbers, possibly.
I've heard numbers, but I don't know if anyone truly knows the amount of debt they're in. So.
They should be pretty easy to find, because it'll be in court filings listing their assets value and their current accumulated debt. And I could be wrong on this one, but I'm thinking it was like $50 million. It's a crazy number, and you're like, holy shit! Like, if it's $50 million, how in the fuck did that happen? So
I have no clue, unless all the powers to be in the company are driving Bentleys. I guess that's possible. They could have been riding high on the hog.
I doubt it. I don't want to think that. I mean, but you know what? They could have been. Who knows?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have no clue. I mean, I'm totally speculating and making that up. I mean, they all might have been driving, 1982 Corollas for all I know.
Yeah.
But when you're 50, we'll just go with that $50 million debt figure. But if you're $50 million in debt, I'm thinking you're not driving an 82 Corolla. You're driving, a new company vehicle, whether it's a Bentley or a new, $100,000 Ford F-150.
Man, 50 million. I hope that's not true. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, hell, if you go crash and burn, might as well go out in style. What did the guy say in the Highlander movie? It's better to burn out than to fade away.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going down the tubes for 10 million, why not 50?
Hookers and blow for everybody. Oh my God.
You can do a lot of hookers and blow on the $50 million price tag.
So anyway, we may have to look around.
I do it for a cheeseburger. So,
yeah,
I mean,
we may have to sniff around and take a look and see if we want to pick up a Hudson. Would we want two of them? Would you want one or just one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about this on a previous podcast. Yeah, I'd definitely love to have one if the price is right, and I don't care if it's broke. If the price is right.
Would you want us to buy two of them? So you and I can each have one.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? We could run Hudson's and see which one breaks first.
Well, because the thing is, if I'm able to source some, I can always make an argument, X dollars for one, two, 1.5x for two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see. But again, if the nerds get in front of this and they feel like the Hudson's still alive and it's a gold-plated gun and they're still $700, $800, $900 because reasons.
Screw that.
It's not.
I mean, I'm thinking $300. I mean, that's kind of the price range I'm in.
I'd pick up two for $300 a piece. So,
yeah.
Hey, speaking of magazines and assault rifle bands and all this whatever hippy dippy bullshit that these people always obsess on. You and I, we predicted this years ago. All these FUDs and all these people that are like Accuracy International, sons of bitches. The bolt gun company. They, the people that are like, I don't care about AR-15s. I'm a precision rifleman. And it's like, I got news for everybody. All these goddamn deer guns and all these precision rifles, the next band that come is going to be sniper rifles. Salon magazine, Lucian Trescott, who is the grandson of General, is it Lucian Trescott from like World War II? He's come out. He is having a shit attack apparently because he's discovered that there are people out there with bolt action rifles hitting targets at 2,000 yards. And he just thinks that's the worst thing since the devil walked the earth.
Well, what fucking rock did he crawl out from under if he just now discovered this? Or is this his latest windmill he's trying to tilt?
This is his latest windmill because he's one of these guys that I'm a gun owner and I've got this and I come from a military family. My grandfather gave my daddy a gun from World War II and my daddy gave it to me from Vietnam and we are patriots and I have a 32 revolver and I have a shotgun and we don't need these military weapons because I told you so.
You just sounded like Kevin Spacey in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Kevin Spacey, if he wasn't a fucking gay rapist, is a badass fucking actor. So I'll take that as a compliment.
I really don't care if he's a gay rapist or not. I still like him. He's a great actor.
He may not be a rapist. He just may be a gay. He may be a drunk diddler.
I would be proud to be gay raped by Kevin Spacey.
God almighty. So... Someday I'm going to film a video on the range with a limp, and then I'm just going to start walking normal and have someone hold open my truck door as I get in and drive away. Nobody gets that but you and me. So anyway, Lucian has come out and said that these precision rifles, because apparently, if you can shoot anything beyond like 80 yards, you're a son of a bitch. And so here it comes, and it's in Salon magazine. And all these people in New York and LA and Seattle and Miami and the communists are going to be like, what? Now they're going to start worrying about people with sniper rifles shooting at them on the 150th floor of their gilded tower. And it's, oh God.
These anti-gun people, I respect the ones that just sit there and say, yeah, we want to take your guns away. We don't want anyone to have guns. Because, all these assholes that sit there and say, oh, well, we're not against the Second Amendment, but we just don't believe you should have this, that, and that. We're not going to mess with hunting guys. See, they're all lying. They're all liars, because everyone who thinks that actually just wants all guns banned. And I respect the person who says, yeah, I hate guns. I want them all banned. Yeah, I don't think you should have a right to own one. I respect that person more than anyone who says, well, I just want to, ban the assault weapons and military-grade weapons. We don't want to mess with your hunting guns. That person's a fucking liar.
He's also an idiot because the Second Amendment's not about hunting. Just look at Venezuela.
Well, I mean, I'm not even getting into that. I'm just talking about, I think all anti-gun people are idiots, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not even getting into that. I'm just getting in, it's almost refreshing to hear someone just flat out say they want to take your rights away instead of just kind of like backdooring you.
I like Kevin Spacey, but an argument, like I've made this argument to some anti-gunners, like we talk, and it's like, look, let me tell you how this works, and let me tell you what the forefathers were really trying to do here, and I start talking about places like countries that they claim that they know about. And I'll be like, who Saddam Hussein was, right? Like, yeah, you know who Iran, and you'll know, Venezuela, right? It's in the news. And what you'll see, and I tell these people, and I think I've said this on the pod before, okay, you have the country, the people, you'll have the leadership, whoever runs the country, whatever that is. Then you'll have the army. And in America, what we have as a check against the army is the Second Amendment. We have the population is armed. Well, in Iran, you read about these battles, or you read the news stories, and it's like, Schwarzkopf was coming up through the whatever, and they were doing the left hook, and they run across this division, or they run across that division. And, it's like, okay, there's the army. Then you'll see then there was the Republican Guard. You're like, okay, that's some weird, colonial weird name for whatever. It's Republican Guard. Nobody pays attention. Then you have Special Republican Guard. And it's like, what that really means is you've got the army, and then you've got the guard, the Republican, you've got the army, the special army to offset the regular army in case the regular army goes crazy. And then you've got the Special Republican Guard to offset the Republican Guard that offsets the army, so you can play them off each other so no one group gets all the power. And it's like, here's the thing. This existed, in Iran today. You've got the Iranian military, and then you've got the Al-Quds force, and you've got the Revolutionary Guard Corps, and they got all these different groups to check this checks and balances. We don't have an army and then a Republican Guard. We have the people as the Republican Guard. And, they're like, oh, and you see a light go off in their head like, oh, I never thought about it like that.
It goes back, the Wehrmacht, the SS, the Gestapo. You can pick examples of that all over, but, at the end of the day.
The SS and, the Gestapo wasn't they're more of intelligent, that's an example of you'll have the intelligence arms. Like the Russians had, KGB, GRU, and you have different groups that fight against, so no one group can have all the control. And that's all that really is. But the Soviets did it too. And see, they don't even want to admit that either. It's like, if you read history and you'll see a group and they'll be like, oh yeah, Red Army whatever group is over here, but then you'll see another group called the 47 Guards Division. What the fuck's the Guards Division? The Guards Division, guards are their Republican guards, their revolutionary guards to offset the army.
Look, trying to explain the Second Amendment to an anti-gunner is very much akin to trying to explain the logic of the Electoral College to liberals.
That whole Electoral College, I don't even want to get into that. That's so stupid. Why would New Hampshire join the Union to be dominated by New York and Virginia?
Because they need to get in line.
Yeah, it's like whatever. It's like, I mean, come on, bitches. I mean, you people are so. I mean, the school system is completely failed. That's where all this is coming from.
Yeah.
So way back
to the beginning of the podcast.
Up next, they want to come after your sniper rifles. So.
And again, that's not really a surprise to you or me or a lot of other people. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that would be like, what? I don't have a sniper rifle. Well, according to them, you do, because if it can shoot 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 yards, it's a sniper rifle. Well, no, it's just, it's a competition rifle that I built. But it can shoot 2,000 yards, so it's a sniper rifle. And again, it's the big circular argument,
So on opening day of deer season, when the gunfire starts, you think in deer language, Bambi's yelling to the other deer, "Sniper!" as they're running into the deep into the woods. Just asking for a friend. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Is a 243 that you shoot 100 yards or 200 yards or 400 yards a hunting gun, but a 243 you shoot at 600 yards a sniper rifle? I'm just asking for a friend.
No, I mean, according to their logic, that would be a big, solid yes.
Yeah. So we've been going for a while now. So I want to wrap this up. And I want to put a cherry on top of this entire conversation with something that came out that I thought was so awesome.
Okay.
Because it's a talisman of the age we live in. And then I'm going to give you a news story that'll be a zinger on the technical issues you've had as to why you can't be on the podcast. So here's the first one. So there's this woman who is a YouTube channel, like everybody has a YouTube channel apparently, and she's a vegan, and I guess she's a
raving lunatic.
She young girl. I mean, she's probably under 30, maybe well under 30, and she started off as a vegetarian and then became a vegan. I literally just learned that, like I guess vegetarian first, then vegan. So, and she's talking about like. She's got this big following on YouTube and social media, and she, eating healthy and talks about her skin and talks about like all these, and then like she has ad product placements and, think of her as like the Hickok 45 of the vegan world. Okay. Life is good as she's eating a cucumber. Okay. So she goes somewhere on a trip with her other, 20-something friends who have YouTube channels, and she's in a restaurant, and somebody's videotaping, and they're like, "Hey, everybody, I'm here at the whatever. We're vlogging from, great whatever, and I got my good friends, girlfriends here, whatever." And in the background, you see vegan chick at a table, and she's eating fish.
No.
And yes. Oh, it gets better. So. It explodes It explodes. World cracked in half. Mushroom cloud comes up. You know, men are crying. Women are, women are picking up, heavy things and throwing them around. The world's just totally upside down. And so she gets all ass hurt and defensive. And she has to have a video. And so she has to explain herself. Yeah. And she's like, I've been having some issues. And she starts alluding to having these health issues. She's been having health issues. And apparently it's been related to her vegan diet. So she has had to start not eating just vegan stuff because she won't really go into all the health issues she's having, but she's 20, maybe 26. She's way too young to be having some of these issues. Yeah. And so her argument was, I'm having all these health issues. I've been talking to my doctors. So I'm still researching these diets and I want to try them for 6 months before I talk to you about them. And it's like, wait a minute. Why don't you just document and bring us all along like you do with everything else that, hey, maybe I need to eat some tofu or a piece of chicken or, or whatever. And it's just like, it is so awesome. And these fucking kids are so stupid.
I mean, I've been saying for years, you've heard me say it on one occasion that a vegan diet is absolutely the worst, most unhealthy diet you can be on. And of course, vegans are militant and they want to burn my fucking house down just because I said it out loud. But the truth is, this is proof that, man, if you live a true vegan lifestyle, and I strongly suspect that most of the vegans out there do not live a true 100% vegan lifestyle, or they'd be dead, but
their cholesterol goes sky high. They have blood pressure issues.
Oh, their bones are brittle because they don't get the proper calcium. You're 26 years old and you got the bone brittle structure of a 70-year-old person. It's horrible.
Look,
but I don't really give a shit. If you want to kill yourself with crap,
most of these vegans that look good, if you're honest about it, like here's a picture of so-and-so, I'm a vegan, blah, 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 blah. Most of them look good because they're young.
And they're also
makeup on. Yeah. So now here's the coup de grace, okay? So Freeze has missed a few podcasts because he's been having some technical issues. And so, but I don't want Freeze to feel totally bad about it because he's decisions he's made and there's consequences. And one of the things is he runs these Android phones and these Android devices.
The best phone out there.
The best phone out there. I'm so glad you said that. So you may have heard there's a woman, she's the CFO, Chief Financial Officer of Huawei, which is, I think, the world's largest cell phone manufacturer. And it's a Droid phone. They're a Chinese company. They busted her in Canada, and they want to extradite her to the U.S. Trump said pick her up, and she's the daughter of the founder, really a member of the Communist Party. There's all this drama because Huawei is really a front for the Communist Party, and they're spying and putting all this shit in these phones and all the electronics and the modems and the routers and all this stuff and the 5G and everything. So there's all this drama. So they, the authorities come in and they pick her up. And by the way, you're being arrested. There's an Interpol warrant for you for violating sanctions against Iran because you lied about some shit and we got you. So that's what's going on with that. Well, when she gets processed, they take her picture, they take her clothes, they take her belongings, they have to catalog them. She was caught with, the CFO of Huawei was caught with 3 Apple devices. She had, I think, 2 phones and a tablet.
Okay.
And they were trying to keep it quiet. And it's like,
no, does it surprise you that a communist has an Apple product? I mean, all you got to do is go to any coffee shop in Seattle, and you'll see 100 communists with Apple products.
good try. Good try. Good try.
Hey, it's off the cuff.
It's off the cuff. Not too bad. Not too bad. And this wraps up episode 128 of the John 1911 podcast. If you want to hear more about this podcast or see articles or pictures or links to things we've talked about, go to our website, john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody,
see you later.
gotcha.